Hello everyone, it's Ms. Redmond here. Welcome to the second lesson in the chemical reactions topic. This one is about word equations. You've got your learning journey here, so feel free to pause the video and write those things down. If you haven't got one already, then go and grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper so you can make notes and do any little tasks that I've got through the video. So, reading word equations. This is a very impressive chemical reaction and it's called thermite. You've got iron oxide reacting with aluminium to make aluminium oxide and iron. So we can summarize that as a word equation. We've got iron oxide plus aluminium. That shows you that these are the things that are reacting. And then the arrow tells us that they are going to form aluminium oxide and iron. You'll notice it's an arrow, not an equal sign, because these are not the same thing. These, iron oxide and aluminium, are being changed into aluminium oxide and iron. All right, there's a chemical reaction happening. That's what the arrow shows. So the substances on the left that are reacting, we call the reactants, and the substances on the right are being produced. They're called the products. So when you're writing a word equation, it follows this general format. You have reactants on the left, an arrow in the middle, and products on the right. The arrow shows that the reactants are being changed into the products. They're not the same thing, so we don't write an equal sign. There always needs to be at least one reactant and at least one product, but the numbers can vary. So I've got 2 here and 2 here, but it could be we've got 1, 2, 3, or 5 reactants, and the same deal for the products. So we need to be careful to keep the reactants on the left of the arrow and the products on the right, even if we need to use 1 or 2 or more lines. So you can see here I've stacked them up on top of each other for this reaction. You've got to think of the arrow as being like a dividing line where the reactants are on the left and the products are on the right. So we've got some example word equations here. I've done one for you. Feel free to pause the video and copy this table, and then you can test yourself on writing word equations, but you don't have to. So for number 1, the reactants are carbon and oxygen. I've colour coded them, and the product, there's only one, is carbon dioxide. This is all one thing, because the carbon and the oxygen have joined together to make a new substance. So in our word equation, we've got carbon plus oxygen, arrow, carbon dioxide. Right, let's have a look at some of the other reactants and products. So we've got iron and oxygen to make iron oxide, copper carbonate, making copper oxide and carbon dioxide, methane and oxygen going to make carbon dioxide and water, and hydrochloric acid and calcium carbonate making calcium chloride and carbon dioxide. So these are all reactions that you will come across in this topic or the acids and alkalis topic. We're going to come back to word equations again and again throughout science, so please don't panic if you're not understanding everything right now. It's fine. All right, so have a go at doing those if you want to, and then I'll reveal the answers in a couple of seconds. Okay, so we've got iron plus oxygen, arrow, iron oxide, copper carbonate, arrow, copper oxide plus carbon dioxide. You notice there's only one reactant on that one. Methane plus oxygen, arrow, carbon dioxide plus water. And the last one, hydrochloric acid plus calcium carbonate, arrow, calcium chloride plus carbon dioxide plus water. So we've got 3 products there, and notice I haven't just scrolled over to the next line as if I was writing in English. I've used my arrow like a dividing line. I've got my reactants on the left, products on the right. So this is another way of looking at chemical reactions. We've got grey circles representing magnesium and red circles representing oxygen. So these are the reactants, and then they're going to form magnesium oxide. So we can turn this into a word equation by putting a plus sign here. So magnesium plus oxygen, arrow, magnesium oxide. shows us that these are our reactants and they're being changed into our one product, which is magnesium oxide. So you can see that we've got all the same atoms there. We've got the same atoms at the end that we started with, but they're arranged really differently. So that's what's happening in a chemical reaction. The atoms are being rearranged. So you can have a go at writing word equations from descriptions. This is a pretty standard style of exam question. So for example, you've got sodium reacts with chlorine to make sodium chloride. You would write sodium plus chlorine arrow sodium chloride. All right. Feel free to have a go at those, and I'll show you the answers on the next slide. So here are the answers. Sodium plus chlorine arrow sodium chloride. Beryllium plus chlorine arrow beryllium chloride. Lithium plus bromine arrow lithium bromide. Potassium plus sulfur arrow potassium sulfide. And nitrogen plus oxygen arrow nitrogen oxide. It's a literacy task really of picking out the correct information from the description. And then you could try doing it in reverse. So as a challenge, you could try writing a description of each of these reactions using the word equations that I've given you. And if you want someone to check your answers, then send them in to your science teacher. Here's an optional task that you can try at home. Feel free to pause the video and have a go at that. And this is the melting chocolate one from the first lesson again. Here's your summary slide. Reactants are the substance or substances that are reacting, and they're placed to the left of the arrow. The products are the substance or substances that are being produced, and they're to the right of the arrow. The plus symbol separates the different reactants and products, and the arrow symbol shows the reactants are being changed into the products. A word equation represents what's happening in a chemical reaction. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.